Hi, I'm Kalinda. Super nice to meet you. And I am super curious on how reflexology found you. It found me about 15 years ago. I was super sick, didn't know how I was going to get better, had no idea what reflexology was. And a friend told me to go to this local reflexology therapist. Well, when I went there, I had no idea what to expect. I was just sitting on a massage table, took my socks off, and my feet were really sore. But the reflexology therapist that was working on me he couldn't see. And so I didn't say anything, my fault. And he couldn't see that I was. And so the funny thing about reflexology, if you've ever been for reflexology and it's tender, tell the reflexology therapist, because reflexes are super tender when there's an imbalance in the body. And if we're using regular pressure, sometimes it can feel like we're trying to stick our fingers through your feet. Not the case. It's just that's how sensitive reflexes can get. And then it's just your body screaming at you, trying to get you to pay attention. But you don't know what you don't know, right? So after that session, I wasn't going back. But he had told me something during that treatment that really piqued my interest, and I didn't understand how he knew. And so my feet, if I don't know where my dummy feet are here, so my feet right in here and right in here were really tender, and he was working on it, and I'm like, oh, freaking out. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, oh, so chest reflexes. I'm like, it's really sore. Is there something wrong? Because back then I suffered from anxiety. So, I mean, if he felt anything, I was sure I was dying. That's how my head worked back then. But he's like, no. He goes, this is consistent with people that wear the wrong size bra. There's no way that he could have known that, because I was fully dressed with a sweater on, a blanket over top, and the only thing sticking out were my feet. I grew up with 3 blind uncles. I know that blind people can't see. And so I was in shock. Like, how would this guy know this? That's impossible. And all that he's doing is touching my feet. So session end, most expensive session of my entire life, because I went to a shop after, a high-end shop, and I got a whole new lineup of bras. And I wasn't going to go back because it hurt, right? And reflexology isn't supposed to hurt. It's just my fault because I didn't tell him that it was tender. If I would have told him it was tender, he would have eased up and it would have all been okay. But like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So I went back a week later. And when I went back a week later, the reflexes weren't tender anymore. Like, there's got to be something to this, because if it can heal, then there's got to be something to this. So then I ended up going for several more treatments. Eventually ended up taking the course, and voila, here we are today. And I am super curious to hear your story about, how did reflexology find you? Do you know what's even crazier? Some students I have taught that have never had a reflexology treatment. They just knew that this is something that they needed to do. Isn't that wild? I think it's so fascinating. And don't forget to tell me your story, because I'd love to hear it. All right. Sound good?